live. So people can watch it. They can watch the replay. I'll put some notes in there later. And so today we're going to talk about markers, and we're going to talk about audio, and we're going to talk about putting them all together. Sorry about that little quick delay there. And life happens. When you do live, sometimes something doesn't work, and then I've switched all sorts of details around. So hopefully you can hear me, see me. And Bill says, I'm alive. So that's appreciated. So here's a scenario. Someone put in the Studio One group. If you're not in the Studio One group on Facebook, be sure to find us. It's in the link that you can see at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Be sure to go to that, join that group. And somebody had a situation where they had a set of markers that were running across the top. And when they had a set of markers, somehow they needed to add something on and put it. It was supposed to be earlier. They wanted to move around some audio. But here's something that if you haven't done this before, you probably don't know. And that's that if you take, I'm going to turn on Ripple Edit. So I'm going to take this segment here. Let me colorize it so that I get a color on it. So I take this red and I move it over someplace else, and that's fine. It'll take it and it just inserts it wherever I want it. It moved everything else over. And that's because I have Ripple Edit turned on. So that's a piece of cake. So now I can do this. But has anybody noticed the problem? Well, let's back up. At the top here, I have some markers. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And those markers did not move with my audio. So now they're all 100% out of sync because I have this new piece of audio here. And there's different scenarios that could come up. I may have inserted some audio. So now my whole thing is longer or shorter, and but it's all easy to remedy, and I'm going to undo that and show you why or how. First thing, if Ripple Edit is turned off, we have one scenario. Then I might end up selecting a bunch of things, moving them all over. I could take this one here, throw it in here. There's a command that most people don't know about. If I select all these events, I could easily go ahead here. I think it's on the event thing. There it is, remove gaps. So most of us don't need that, but there are times where it's nice to know that it even exists. And if you click on this remove gaps, it'll just cleverly remove all the gaps, okay? So most people don't know about that. It's on the event menu called remove gaps. And if you have gaps, it'll just close up all the spaces for you. I would never do it that way, but I just want you to know it exists. I shouldn't say never. There have been occasions I've been working on a specific piece of audio and taken out some stuff and left the holes there on purpose for one reason or another, and then that remove gaps is really handy, and you'll see. Just knowing about it means someday you'll be happy that you know about it, and you might be able to use it. It's cool. I'm going to undo that. That's not how I do it. I'll do that, undo. I'm back to the beginning here. And so here's what's going to happen. It's going to be pretty simple, okay? And the simple thing is, first off, so he had I'll show this scenario. I have markers number 1 through 8. You probably already know this. If I take this and I move this any place, put it where it belongs. So this was the scenario. He had all these markers all set up. Now could be really obnoxious. I could have 160 markers. I could have 200 markers. I could have 10. But if you have a higher number and you take some audio here, and I'm going to turn on Ripple Edit, and if I take this audio and I insert it, say at this point here, wow, all my markers are now messed up. Imagine if I had 160 of them, or just even if I had 40 of them or 30, but there are e-learning projects that could easily have 100+ markers to the right. And if I put this at the beginning, do I want to run around and adjust all those manually? No, I don't. So if you were in the old days and Ripple Edit was turned off, here's an interesting thing you can do. By dragging across all of them, they now are a group, and I can move them all together as a team. So if I did that, then I could resync them to something that makes sense, because they're all going to move as a team. I could grab any of them and line it up properly, and when I do that, I will get it. You'll notice everything else is moving by the same exact amount. So that if I have them, sometimes I've inserted something, and then if I inserted it at the beginning, so I'm going to undo this, I'll show you, because there's multiple cases here. If I were to take this one and put it in right well, let me back up. I also have Snap turned on. You can combine tools. Snap is your friend when you're doing some of this stuff. And I have Snap turned on, and I have Snap to Events turned on. I don't want Snap to Grid in this case. I want Snap to Events. What does that mean? There's a seam right here. If I zoom in, I have a little seam. That is the event seam. And by using that event seam, that's where the markers are. By the way, if I'm dividing up e-learning, I should show you this one little trick before that's just a side note. This is a pro tip. I'm running around in here and I want to divide it up here. I have a tendency where I'm going to put the marker to also double click right here and create an event. So it starts at the event. While the cursor is still there, I press the insert key and I just added a marker and then it renumbered all the rest of them. Okay, so that's something that I just do all the time. You do not have to do that. You could just have the actual markers. I also later I can adjust this seam any place that I need it to be by just dragging it from the bottom. And then if I needed to adjust the marker here, as long as, since Ripple Edit isn't on, I can draw, but I have Snap turned on. It will snap perfectly to that line there, the event start. So that does make things easier to use Snap, to use it for Snap to Events. That really helps, and it makes it easy to do that kind of thing. So I just inserted a marker at a different point, divided something up. I've done that before. I've had 35, 50 different segments in an e-learning and realized, yeah, at number 34, I didn't divide it up properly. I either started it too early, too late, or I missed one of them. And so instead of, I get to the end and I say, all right, I've got 38 segments here. And I look at it and it's like, hey, there's only 37 there. What did I do? And I have to go back. And that was just me. But it happens to everybody. You get busy, you're doing other things. So you can see right here, these start off white. I could highlight over a set of them. And now this set moves as a team. And they all move together. They all move together. I can undo those as well. And that makes things pretty easy. But here's the interesting thing. As long as I have the first one, so let's go ahead and take this, and I'm going to insert it right where number 2 starts. I had a missing segment, this red one here, and I'm going to grab that. And I'll just make the whole thing a little bigger just so we can see this here. And let me make it a little bigger, a little less, because I see I'm going to move it over. That would be a smarter thing to do there. All right. So let's be smart about this, okay? I have too many screens going on here on this end. And when you reconfigure stuff, I changed the way I do some stuff. All right. So we'll take this red thing. And because I have Snap turned on, I'm going to get it right in here where number 2 is. So it's really hard. I grab it from the bottom. So I have the arrow tool and it snaps perfectly there. And because Ripple Edit was off, that's a paste. So that doesn't help me. Undo. Turn on Ripple Edit, and then I drag this over and snap it, and everything moves over again. Now, my markers are wrong, but everything else is right. So watch this. When Ripple Edit's turned on, of course, I could, if Ripple Edit was off, I'm going to drag over before and after and get all those markers, and now they are grouped. And now I could just simply use Snap, and you will see that they all happen to be the same distance apart. They're the same relative different distance. And so now I just end up with one extra marker here, and I'll get rid of this guy. But I also really need one here as well. But certainly, just so you know, I could press my delete key. I had them all selected, and I panic. And instead, I just want to select this one. I don't really panic. I just undo. If you knew, I'm the best undoer you've ever met. Why am I the best? I've done it 400,000 times more than you've ever dreamed of. I've undone more stuff than most people have done. All right. So you get rid of this thing here, and then I'm going to just press my delete key, and that one's gone. And then when I do my export, it'll put the end marker right at the end, so that would be fine. But notice right here, I could go ahead and say, uh-oh, I need to put another marker in here at the beginning of this one because I moved this segment over here. And now I'm going to press my L key, which puts the cursor there. This is the easy way to do it, sort of, but I'll show you another way in a second. So that's there. And then I'll press the insert key, and that'll put it in there. Now, some keyboards don't have an insert key. So you do it from the menu. You can add the markers. But here's the other thing. If ripple edit was not turned on, if my cursor was not in the right space, I do have snap turned on. So I'm going to undo these things. So there. So let's just say my cursor's there. I put in a marker. I'm using the insert key to do that. I can't remember what it is on the Mac. I think it's insert, but I don't remember. I should look at my Mac. Well, I put it in the wrong place. So I drag this thing over, and now it's right at the right space, okay? Because without ripple edit on, I can move any individual marker. I can highlight over two of them, and they are going to move as a team. If I do that, I didn't do that right. Let me get both of those. Let me see if I go this way. I want this one and this one. There they are. And then they move as a team, okay? Undo all that stuff. So you have this interesting thing. You can move markers as a group, but you don't even have to. In the old days, before we had ripple edit, I had to go ahead and just, all I would do is highlight over them like this, and I would move them all as a team like that. They would all move together, okay? I'm going to show you a cool trick here in a second for those of you that stay to the end. But if I, so I'm going to put that back. They're all moving as a group, and that's because I group them. But here's an interesting thing. I just click so that I now no longer have the group. You see them white. And now I'm going to turn on ripple edit. Well, let me move my, so before I do that, so I'm going to take all of them and I'm going to move them that much. So because I inserted something, now they're off a little bit, right? Now, when I turn on ripple edit, even if I click on the end, so now all I need to do is take the first one, since snap is on, and they all ripple to the right spots. So ripple edit, if you know how ripple edit works on a track, you'll know how ripple edit works on the markers. That makes life easier, okay? And then a couple little pro tips here. So first off, let me see if there's any questions that have come in here. And on my screen, no, other than you are alive. That's not a question, Bill. That is a comment, and I don't even know if that's a right comment. I am coming to you from AI land. I am not a real person. Actually, it'd probably be an upgrade if I did that. Okay, so here's a couple other things. Since I have 2 tracks, Studio One will not. If I take this thing and I move or insert some time, okay, there is something that no one uses anymore. This is in the old days. We would highlight a little range, and I'm going to highlight this, and I could use this cool thing called Edit, Insert Silence. I move that over. You notice my markers did not move at all. But watch this. Boom, boom. If I only have 1 track, so I'm going to hide this guy, now I have an interesting thing that will occur. If I insert some audio, watch these markers here as I insert some audio. So I choose Edit, Insert Silence, and everything moves together. A lot of people don't know that, but that allowed. So it's something that most people don't realize. When you have multiple tracks, Studio One does not know which track those markers belong to. And by the way, a lot of times I don't use those. There's some other things I can use, but sometimes I need them. Sometimes they work great. Like I don't use them to put in notes. I'll use notes from event notes. So if I want, a lot of people will use markers to give themselves a little note here that says, edit this later, edit this later. They'll do that. They'll make a marker and they'll do that. I never do that because I can right click, and this is much easier. Edit this later, and you can see it easier. And I also at the same time can set the color of the whole event so that I might have a specific color that I have set up that will allow me to say, hey, what do I need to do? And I just give myself a note and a color, and then that just makes life easier. Okay, totally off subject. But hey, for those of you that stick around, you know the inside dirt, okay? So what it means is if you only have 1 track and you have the markers set up, then you can go ahead and do some interesting things in terms of insert time, delete time. If you use this also, if I needed to delete something and I use the edit delete time command, so I take this thing and I say, all right, I need to get rid of this. This is no longer relevant to what I'm doing. If I just use the regular, if ripple edit is turned on, I use the regular delete and nothing happens there, okay? That's just a regular delete. If I use edit delete time, then everything moves together with it. Okay, so these two commands under the edit menu, insert silence and delete time, actually also work with the markers. All right, now I have a feature request out there to give us a more comprehensive ways, and then I'll show you one more little bonus thing that's pretty interesting that very few people know about. If you have this track selected, the marker track is selected, and you open the inspector, okay, and then you have the marker track selected, you actually can see all your markers here, and you can go to them with the cursor. Will go to them. See, that's at that, and you can do other things here. So if I went in here and I give this a name for this marker, this is number 4, what you're going to see is it shows up there. So if you had the names and you want to go directly to this, you can. What people don't know is you need to have the inspector open, you need to have the marker track active, but you also can do some things like you can have it start playing from these markers. If you had 30 or 40 e-learning things that you had set up like this, and you wanted to go play number 23, but in this case I don't have 23, I can go down here to 7, and then I'm going to finish that up. And I don't know, by double clicking out here on the edge, I'm going to go back to 4. Let me highlight it here. So we have number 4. Cursor's way off the screen at this point, and I go out here and I double click. And did you see the cursor start moving there right at that point? It would start playing that, which means I can go through and audit. It would always start at the exact same point and jump, and then I go ahead and I continue build and jump because I'm a pirate. And it would always start at the. So I can use this to go through and quickly audit 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 things. Client comes back and says, hey, number 23 is, messed up. You voiced that wrong. Then I can simply go in and go look at this, open the marker track, not have to go figure out where it is, what count it is, look at any of this stuff. If I've named them properly or not, if I just know what they are, this could have been just with the slide numbers, then I can go and I can use this little feature here, and it makes life interesting. And so there's some extra bonus stuff about markers, and I'll look for questions there. I don't see any questions there, so we'll keep this short and sweet. So I hope this helps, all right? Be sure to join the Studio One group. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to go ahead. I'm going to do one later today, and it's going to be talking about watch this. This is super cool. For those of you that stayed till the end, the new RX11 event editor that, I just took this little red segment here. This is now in RX as far as, and I can do spot cleaning here. And this spot cleaner allows me to take out mouth noise or little pops and clicks and things. But the spot cleaner is super cool. And it also is working in real time, meaning that if I move my cursor here, there's the cursor. If I move the cursor right here, then it's moved in Studio One. They are staying in sync. And that is a really cool thing. As I'm looking for, I hear a sound in Studio One. Oh, there's something that I don't like, and I want to use some spectral editing on it. I want to use spectral repair against it or gain. There's a couple other things I can do, but the most important one will be spectral repair. And I can highlight this, and I can go ahead and process that, and it will have, depending now the strength here. Let me if I have this thing right set up, and you can have a preset, by the way, with all this stuff, which I do, but now when I run it, it just changed that little segment. Matter of fact, I'm going to run it a couple times so that you can just see that it's changing this audio. And this is a super cool thing. So I'm going to have a live session later today. So if you're subscribed to the channel, great. If you're in the RX group, you'll see about it. I'll probably post a note in the Studio One group because I found a couple other cool tricks about this that'll make your life easier and better. All right, so that's the bonus. For those of you that stay to the end, I always love finding a way to give you extra value. I can also undo all that stuff and go all the way back to the beginning instead of just plain old undo. I can go back to the beginning and put all that stuff back. This is a great tool. It's Studio One, Pro Tools, and Logic at this point are the only ones that have that from RX, from Isotope. And I'm happy to say that it is there because of some work that I did with one of their product managers roughly a year ago. It might have been 9 months ago, but it's certainly it was before we got our first beta on it. And I kind of talked them into they Logic was on their radar, and I talked them into getting one for Studio One because it uses technology that Studio One's the one that founded the technology to do this communication. And I've got some other things that we'll see in the future. Anyway, hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope this was helpful. Hope this gives you some tools to solve problems on your own. Be sure to add a comment. It is so helpful if after we're done you add a comment to the YouTube video as well. Subscribe to the channel. Check out all the other cool stuff we have at vojumpstart.com/S1. I have a whole course on making the most of Studio One. Hope you have a fantastic day. We'll see you on the wires. Bye-bye.